In this video, we're going to be talking about hair color. You look at the top of the board, when you see, or in your book, or at your state board exam, when you see hair color as a compound word, they're talking about the color in the bottle. When hair color is two separate words, they're talking about the color of the client's hair. When you're asked a question, it's important to know which color are they talking about. Are they talking about the color in the bottle, or are they talking about the color of the hair? You need to know the difference so that you can answer the question correctly. When we look at the chemical structure of the hair shaft, and we're looking at how pigment is formulated and how the hair gets its natural pigment, we're looking at amino acid proteins. The amino acid protein tyrosine is responsible for making blue pigment. The blue pigment is dark. It has the largest molecular structure. It's the deepest of the pigments, and it gives me the depth of my color. The tyrosine amino acid and that dark pigment is called eumelanin. Then your body uses cysteine, the amino acid cysteine, to manufacture red, yellow pigment. This gives us our three primaries, red, yellow, blue, so that we have all of the different hair colors that people can grow on their head. The cysteine granule is called pheomelanin. If I have only pheomelanin, I have my natural redheads, which is not all that common. If I have mixed melanins, which is the most common, and I have red, yellow, and blue, then I have two types of blue pigment. I have the really dark, where blue is dominant and there's only a little bit of red and a little bit of yellow to give me the three primaries. The three primaries in equal amounts give us black, but it's by molecular weight, so I just said that backwards. Okay, molecular weight means if I have one blue, I need two red to three yellow to get my black pigment. And then the browns, I can have a blue based, which we call cool browns. Then I have warm browns, which have a reddish base, and I have my golden browns, which are the yellow based and give me like my lighter shades and more into the blondes. Now, what controls the depth of pigment in my hair and the type is two things. Number one, the type of the granule. Do I have eumelanin, pheomelanin, or are they mixed melanins? Most everybody is mixed, okay, but not always. If I have some natural redheads, I have pheomelanin. Then I have the size of the granules. They come small, medium, and large. Okay, so I can have a lot of small granules that are full of pigment and have very dark hair. I can have a small granule that isn't full of pigment and have lighter hair. I can have a large granule that only has a little bit of pigment, my hair is going to be lighter, or the granule can be full, it's going to be darker. And then how close together are those granules? The farther apart the granules are, the lighter the hair. So the closer together they are, the darker the hair. So once again, the type of granule, the placement, and how full they are is what gives us all that huge variety of natural pigment that you see. When the granules are empty and there is no pigment in them, now we have gray hair. Gray hair is lack of pigment. It's called kanishes, just gray hair. So when I have gray hair, I have no pigment. The lights are on, no one's home. The granules are there, they're just empty. So that's what gives me my natural color. Now we want to step into the realm of artificial color. When I'm working with artificial pigments, I have three categories. The first one is temporary, which means it's going to shampoo out. Those are our color rinses, spray-on gels, all of the unique things that you have today that you can just change the color of your hair. As soon as you shampoo it, it's gone. Those are temporary. And they almost all use certified pigment. They almost all have an acidic pH. When I'm looking at my semi-permanent color. Permanent means forever. Once I put it in there, it's not coming out. But semi is half of forever. So it's really not, it's kind of like an oxymoron. I can't have permanent semi. I have one or the other. But within the classification of semi-permanent color, there's two categories. One are the traditional ones, the original ones, and their active ingredient was ammonium thioglycolate. So if you use the beautiful browns, Loving Care, Hate That Gray, Wash It Away, Clairol was the first one to come out with the semi-permanent colors, but their active ingredient was ammonium thioglycolate, and that was an alkaline pH. It has a pH of 8. If I have sodium hydroxide relaxer on my hair, that's not an option. One of the teachers I worked with came to me, she had a soft curl, and she said, "Why is my hair breaking off?" And I asked her, "What are you using to color it?" And she goes, "I'm using Beautiful Browns by Clairol." I go, "But Miss Dominguez, that has ammonia in it, ammonium thioglycolate, and it's breaking your hair off." So as soon as we stopped doing that, but plus she had fine hair. If you have coarse hair, you might get away with a little more than you do with the fine hair, but once again, it causes breakage. I have a dual chemical, and I have to know what's in my products so I know what is compatible and what is incompatible. The second classification came about with Sebastian and their cellophanes, and they used a polymer, and they used only plant-based pigment. And let me tell you, that was permanent. I put a mahogany color shine on my hair, and then decided maybe 2 or 3 months later I was going to re-bleach my hair out. Well, we bleached it okay, but my ends were like orange. We could not get that out, and we couldn't cover it up. I had to cut my hair off, because when you use plant-based pigments, it's pretty permanent. Combined with a polymer that latched into the hair, it doesn't come out. Now Sebastian calls them color shines. Kind of the same difference. They have clear, and they have all different colors. That is safe to use over sodium hydroxide relaxed hair, or hair that has a permanent wave, or hair that has a soft curl. I can use a polymer-based semi-permanent color safely and not get any breakage. Then I have my third classification, which is oxidative color. This is permanent color, a total chemical change within the hair shaft. The original formulations were made with paraphenyldiamine, which is a coal tar derivative. Paraphenyldiamine comes from coal tar, and as such, it causes cancer. It's in almost all European colors because it unequivocally covers gray. There is no problem. The United States came out with the synthetic paraphenyldiamine, and we call it aniline. So we have aniline derivative tints. And it doesn't matter which of the two you use, they require a predisposition test for an allergy. Not for cancer, mind you. It causes cancer, but we don't have to put that on the label like they do for cigarettes, because we, the women of the United States of America, said we're not going there. You're not taking our hair color. Bottom line, the FDA did some testing, and they injected the mice with the hair color. So are we surprised they developed cancer? Hello? You show me a woman who shoots up her hair color, and I'll show you someone who deserves cancer. We put it on the scalp, which is a small area, maybe for 30 to 40 minutes once a month, so the risk is significantly reduced. If I'm using aniline, it's almost not there. But once again, I'm not going to get the coverage from the gray. So now products like Wella and such use both paraphenyldiamine and aniline, so I need the MSDS. I need to know the chemicals that are in my color and the health risks that are associated with those chemicals. when we're doing an allergy test, it's called a predisposition test, and or skin test, patch test, allergy test. It can come to you on the state board with any of those variations of verbiage. It has to be given in California 24 hours before each and every tint or toner. The instructions say 24 to 48 hours because other states require a longer exposure time. It doesn't always mean it's accurate. So if you were to give me an allergy test to hair color, I would show negative. You would put the hair color on my hair and I would be dead before the paramedics could get to me because I am massively allergic to coal tar. And I show a negative test. So now we have the difference in negligence and malpractice. Usually, most salons neglect to tell you that you need an allergy test. If you were to call any salon and say, I would like a retouch, I just got here from out of state, I'm not sure what color I use, but I need a retouch. Do you require an allergy test? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say no. Now the problem with that is, you don't know who's calling you. The state board uses people they call spotters. I think we're all aware of people who go into a restaurant. They're paid to go eat and they're paid to critique everything that goes on. They have a list of questions that they have to answer. They're reimbursed for their meal when they turn in their page and such like that. Well, the state board uses them. We call them spotters. And sometimes they'll call up and say, you know, I need a tint. Do you require an allergy test? If I know to ask you the question, I probably know the answer. Most people don't call and ask you. They'll call you up and say, I need a retouch. When can I come in? And you go, okay, maybe tomorrow at noon or whatever time you have available. They don't ask. If somebody's asking you, do you require a predisposition or an allergy test? You say, yes, we do. Because you don't know. Many times in the school where I was working, we would have the people call and my receptionist would say, wait a minute, you have to talk to my supervisor. And she'd come and get me. She'd go, hey, Sue, there's somebody on the board that wants to, or somebody on the phone that wants to know if they have to have an allergy test. So I said, okay. Now this is the series of questions that go down. Do you require an allergy test? Yes, we do. You need to come in the day before you want your color. We'll give you the test. Does it cost me any money? I said, of course not. Allergy tests are free. They cost you no money. You just come in. We put a little dollop behind your ear. You come in the next day, 24 hours later, and we'll see if it's your negative, and we'll go ahead and do your color. And then the next question is, what color are you going to use? Well, I used to say black, because that has the most paraphenol diameter, the most aniline in it. It can't get darker than black. So if they're going to have an allergy, they're going to have it to that, and then we're knowing. But that's not the state board answer. If it's a spotter and they say, what color do you want to use? What color are you going to use? You're going to say the color that we're going to use on you. And then the next question they asked me was, what level of hydrogen peroxide are you going to use? And you do not say 10, 20, 30, 40. You say it depends on the manufacturer's instructions. That's the correct answer to the question. Then they'll say, okay, and they'll make an appointment and they won't show up. Because I answered those series of questions correctly, they know when they come in that that's what's going to go down. So there's no reason to come in. But if you say no, they're going to come in. Ask for the tent, and as soon as you take the money, out comes the badge. $1,000 fine if you don't have that allergy test. So this is imperative. This is state board questioning because this is health and safety, client protection. When do you have to give an allergy test? Before each and every tint and or toner, because a toner is an aniline derivative tint. It's just a pastel color that goes over bleached hair, but it still is an aniline based tint, and you have to give the test. Now that's not the only ingredient in permanent color. I also have a pigment. My paraphenylene diamine and aniline are clear. They have no pigment of their own. So the manufacturer is going to infuse them with the pigment. 100 years ago, we had red base, blue base, yellow base. And you had to mix your colors. You had to know your primaries. You had to go across a thing for complementary colors. Okay, then we had formulas that had a red base, but it could be a red-yellow with red predominant. It could be a yellow base with yellow predominant with a little bit of red. It could have been a brown base and da-da-da. Today, you have the N series, because remember, gray hair has no pigment of its own. There's no interaction. So if I don't have the 3 primaries in my formula, it's not going to cover the gray. So the N series means neutral, which means it has all those pigments in it. Then you have the double N, which is even more pigment for harder to cover gray hair. And when you get into your hair coloring classes, that's when the teacher is going to expound upon this, but now we have a base idea of what they're talking about. There's also ammonia in it. Okay, and so ammonia is sealed off. The ammonia molecule has a sealed coating around it. My aniline and pigment granule are sealed off. Even though they're sharing the bottle, they're not in contact with each other because of the protective coating. That protective coating is deteriorated when oxygen gas is used. So as soon as you mix hydrogen peroxide with it, the hydrogen peroxide, the oxygen, destroys that protective coating. The two can come together to create the color that's going into the hair. Now it's important that you understand that when that happens, you have about 10 minutes before that molecule expands and can no longer penetrate the hair shaft as adequately as it can when it's tiny. So I need to mix my colors, and I need to practice my applications with the shaving cream so I can get my applications down. And normally, I don't care how fast you are, you can't get from here to there in 10 minutes. Okay, but if I'm gray, I'm going to start here and I'm going to go to the back. This hair has more pigment, so that kind of offsets it. So you want to make sure that if you're lightening, you might want to make a separate batch. Make a small amount for section 1, half the head, then make another one for the second half of the head, so that you're assured equal color releasing. When oxidation occurs, the tint is like when you cut an avocado. Normally they're green, but if you let them set and you go back the next day, you'll see it's all black on top. That's because the air has oxidized the avocado. You take that top layer off and you have green avocado again. So when you're using tube colors, after it's been opened and you take the lid off, you'll notice the end of it is black. Regardless of the color that's in the tube, the end is black. But it's only about a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a 32nd of an inch, that's actually black, and you take off that top piece and you have unoxidated color, and it's good. Most manufacturers now are using tube colors for that very reason. If I'm buying my color in a bottle and I'm only using half of it, and I let it sit on the shelf for a week, that week of oxygen in there has oxidized that pigment, and the pigment molecule and the ammonia have come together and they've destroyed each other. So I'm not going to get as quality a color as I would if I had a fresh bottle. So once again, there you can be penny wise, pound foolish. Okay, so be careful about using old color. When I'm working with my oxidative color, I now have 3 categories there too. I have the traditional, which is my ammonia, and it is 6% ammonia gas. So I have my bottle, and in my formula, the ammonia gas is 6%, and that is traditionally called a lift and deposit tent, with a pH of about 8.6. Then I have deposit only. My deposit only has been reduced to 3%. Manufacturers started doing this because ammonia gases convert cysteine to cysteine. Now remember that my body uses cysteine to make red yellow pigment. So a lot of times when we were in the lift and deposit, if we wanted a cool brown, in a couple of weeks the client would call back and say, where did this reddish cast come from? It came because you chemically made it in the hair shaft with the ammonia, converting that hard form of sulfur in my polypeptide chains to the soft form of sulfur that gives me my elasticity. But now I have chemically created red feedback within the hair shaft. So understanding that, the manufacturers reduced the amount of ammonia and they called it deposit only. I can still use a deposit only color, and if I up my hydrogen peroxide I can get a lighter color with it. That we'll talk about when we talk about hydrogen peroxide, how to use it and bring it together, and you'll probably get that, you know, in your other hair coloring classes. Then I have my demi color. My demi color has 1.5% ammonia gas in it. And it can say no ammonia because the FDA says anything 2% or less, I don't have to tell you it's there. A long time ago, on food boxes, when you would turn it around and you would read the ingredients, it didn't have to tell you. If it was 2% or less, they did not have to put it on the label. Now, because of the massive amount of allergic reactions to certain things, in a little box, it'll say contains 2% or less, and then they give you the list of stuff they would have left out of it before. But now I even have an allergen statement at the bottom of my ingredient list in bold print. Allergen contains eggs, contains milk, contains soy, contains wheat, could be made on a nut manufacturing agency. Because of allergies, client protection, health and safety in the food industry, the FDA said we have to step up that labeling now, and now you have to, but we don't have to in hair color. Okay, so in demi color, because it has less than 2% ammonia, they can say it is a no ammonia based color. So now, as I reduce the amount of ammonia, I reduce the pH. So my traditional is about 8.6. My deposit only is between 7.5 and 8. Okay, and maybe a little bit more, but right about there. My demi comes in at 6, between 6, but it's below 7. So I have less structure change, much less red feedback. So I have the option of altering colors. That comes in your hair coloring classes when you have hair coloring 1, 2, and 3. As you progress, they'll get more and more detailed with this. But this is the base chemistry. The chemistry of the hair shaft and how your body formulates pigment. The chemistry of the artificial pigment, how it's put together, the effect it has on the hair, the allergen reaction, okay, and super important, of course, is always client protection, health, and safety. So this is crucial, especially for state board. Very little of this type of information is going to be on your state board. This you need so that you can make an educated decision about which colors to choose to use on the client based on their natural hair color, based on what's in there. Now, a whole nother concept is if I come into you with tinted hair and I already have artificial pigment on my hair, that's a whole nother story that, once again, the teachers who do hair coloring 1, 2, and 3 are going to go into more detail with you on that particular category.